We sincerely thank you all for being here. Joe Laweson, the Deputy Director of our library, is going to discuss the history of the Law Library starting from 1915. Thank you very much. Joe?
Thank you, Vince. I would like to thank everybody for joining us on this historic day for the Harris County Law Library. Just this week, the Harris County Commissioners Court designated today as Harris County Law Library Day throughout the county in honor of our Centennial celebration, and we would like to thank the court for their support. In preparing for our 100th anniversary, I had the opportunity to research the history of the Law Library to write an article for the Houston Lawyer. While I was going through that process, I found a very rich collection of people and events with ties to many important moments in Houston's history. Today I hope to highlight a few points along the Law Library's timeline. However, I won't be able to cover everything. It is 100 years after all. And so I would encourage anyone who would like to know more to visit our exhibits around the Law Library, including our video exhibit, and also to visit our digital exhibit on our website. That is harriscountylawlibrary.org/100. So when talking about the history of the Harris County Law Library, we really have to start at the year 1870. That year is when the Houston Bar Association was established, and the first president, Peter Gray, called for the creation of a law library for Houston's growing bench and bar. In addition to serving as HBA president, Gray also was the original founder of the firm that would become Baker Botts, and he was an associate justice for the Supreme Court of Texas. Many years passed before Gray's call led to serious efforts, but in 1913, 7 prominent members of Houston's legal community incorporated the Lawyers Library Association for the purpose of raising funds to establish a law library. Several members of the association's board were very influential people in Houston's growth during the early 20th century, and I just want to tell you about 2 of them here. The first treasurer was Captain James A. Baker. He is, of course, a well-known figure at the firm Baker Botts, but he also had a role in the formation of Rice University, which is, of course, one of Houston's greatest institutions. Additionally, another board member, Thomas Ball, served as a U.S. congressman and played an important role in the construction of the Houston Ship Channel, which celebrated its centennial last year. He is also the namesake of Tomball, Texas, for his work routing rail lines through that part of northern Harris County. Finally, Thomas Ball was also the founder of the firm that would become Andrews Kurth. So between 1913 and 1915, the Lawyers Library Association raised funds by selling stock in the company. And by 1915, the board had raised enough to buy a small legal collection and enough to furnish a library. They had also arranged for the library to be located on the top floor of the then new Harris County Courthouse, which of course today is the 1910 courthouse. With everything in order, they set October 1st, 1915 as the date of the grand opening, and they invited members of the local bar to attend. Today we celebrate the centennial of that grand opening in the same fashion. The Law Library continued as a subscription library for the next 36 years, which means lawyers had to pay membership dues, and anyone who didn't was excluded from the library. In 1941, though, the Harris County Commissioners Court voted to transition the Law Library to a public institution that was open to attorneys, judges, and litigants throughout Harris County. The court vested management in the HBA's Law Library Committee, and under their guidance, the library's collection expanded greatly throughout from the 1950s through the 1980s, and it was regularly called the finest law library south of St. Louis in HBA bulletins. Today, the Law Library Committee continues to be a beneficial partner. In 1986, a significant advancement came to the Law Library in the form of a Westlaw terminal named Walt. We were one of the first public law libraries at that time to offer online legal research. And of course today the role of digital research has expanded greatly, and we offer resources to our patrons through our public access computers in greater quantities than the founders could have ever imagined in 1915. Moving forward in time to 2011, the Law Library joined the office of Vince Ryan, Harris County Attorney, And the Law Library has benefited greatly from the support of the County Attorney's Office, especially in 2013 when we moved from the 17th floor to the first floor of this building. At that time, we became much more accessible to all of our patrons, usage doubled, and we were also able to greatly increase the digital resources available to everyone. 2 years later, of course, brings us to today when we celebrate our century of service. Again, I want to thank you for celebrating with all of us, and I would like to introduce Mary Ann Sears, the Director of the Harris County Law Library, who will talk about the Law Library of today.